But you never know that you could. And when you feel that way, ain't it good, good dancing in the red and gold. Dancing in the red and gold.
This is the 49er Faithful UK Live. Good evening, everyone. We are back. It is week 14. The bye is over and we are into the home stretch. I'm Gareth Ellis, and joining me on the live is the man who needs no introduction.
Haha, thanks for that, Gareth. Are you well rested after this bye week, buddy?
I am, mate. It's been exhausting. 13 weeks of solid football. So hopefully everybody else has had a nice breather as well. It's gone quick. I sometimes find bye weeks tend to drag a bit when I'm really looking forward to it, but this one seems to have just glided past. Maybe it's December and Christmas and other things occupy your mind, and it seems to have gone by. But what about you? It's been a while, Paul.
Yeah, it's life is busy as always, Gareth. But what's quite interesting with it being the latest bye week that we've had under Shanahan, as you said, last Sunday felt quite surreal. Sitting down at home, watching Red Zone, getting ready for the Packers Bears game, and the Niners knowing no matter what happened last Sunday, we
We go
weren't
up.
knocked out of playoff spot contention. And I think the Niners players themselves have come out, Gareth, this week and said the fact that they're now well rested, they've got that 4-game running, which we're not going to get too carried away, faithful, one game at a time. And tonight's all about the Titans. But yes, Gareth, I'm feeling quite good.
You obviously didn't hear the last show that me and Lee did then, where Lee started getting very, very much carried away.
I did, and that's why I'm trying to temper expectations. Weirdly, me and Gowland seem to have switched places. I'm trying to be one game at a time, not look too far ahead, and he has gone full steam ahead with we're winning it all, Mr. Positivity. I think it may be Jay Peplo influence, Gareth, being down in Sheffield and spending a bit of time with Jay. And as you will see on the screen, for those people who are watching, Colin, super chat. Much appreciated, buddy. So, yes, we're mixing the live and the preview show this week which is very busy, aren't we, Gareth? And we've got lots to do.
And Lee's away, so we can run amok without adult supervision.
Yeah, I must admit, Gareth, Gowland wants us to talk about a certain segment this week, and we're not talking about it because I don't partake in it. Those people at home. Yes, there's a certain section on Discord where you predict certain things other than our prediction league.
Oh, yes,
I
the
have
other one.
Feeling he did well this week.
Did he? Well, Jamie's not here to gloat about it, and next week will be far, far too late to mention it again. So, oh dear, how sad. Never mind.
But yes,
have we got anyone else watching, or is it just me, you, and Colin?
No, David is in the house. Michael is delighted that we've got a live show so he can watch along, and he is on the same page as me. No point looking past this week. There's a big focus in division that weirdly, for the first time in my life, Gareth, I might be cheering for the Seattle Seahawks next week, but we don't want to go down that rabbit hole too early.
Well, that's half my notes for the show gone then. If we're not going to go down that sort of rabbit hole, we've missed. I mean, usually when we've had the bye weeks, we've been able to sort of sum up the season so far and kind of take stock a little bit. I mean, this has seemed an odd bye week so close to the run-in, but can you sum up this season so far?
I mean, you look at the NFC West and the fact that we're sat third in division with our record. I mean, nobody is looking at the Cardinals. And you look around the NFC, I've said it before in this show that I have friends who support other teams, and my new line manager is a Bears fan, Gareth. So to sum up the NFC season, he is over the moon that they're still in contention at this stage. And I suppose as Niners fans, we kind of take that for granted that we're going to be in the playoffs. And if you cast your mind back to losing Brock, losing Fred, losing Bosa, the fact that we're sat here and we've still got a realistic shot at the number 1 seed, I'm feeling quite excited, Gareth. And the NFL season goes far too quickly. especially for us in the UK. But the fact that we've only got 4 regular season games left, and I can't wait for the playoffs, because let's face it, to quote League Howland, it's happening.
Yeah, I can't really know what to make of this season. Really, it's the obligatory roller coaster. Obviously, I think we started well, but beating the Seahawks at home. That's a nice start, isn't it? Then a little bit derailed by injuries. I think obviously the Fred Warner injury when we were down in London, that really kind of took the air out of things, and that we still thought, okay, well, we can win this game. Let's see what happens. Let's see how bad that injury is. And of course, not able to come away from that game with the win. There's a couple of points where it did look like the season was going to potentially turn quite ugly, and it never quite has. And in fact, it's the last few games, it's really turned the corner. I think there is not got a bad or critical word to say about Mac Jones, but I think Brock Purdy coming back very quickly put to bed the difference, I think, between Purdy and Jones, even though people had said it wasn't that much of a difference. I think it's been fairly obvious. And I've just been so impressed by the way the defense has just adjusted to being battered by injuries, and it's not just Bosa and Warner, it's everybody else, and has somehow held it together, which is surely down to coaching top to bottom, I think, in the those guys on the defensive side. So it's suddenly any one of us would have taken this, I think, when we 9-4 at the bye week. If you'd been offered that, no injuries, nothing. If you'd been offered 9-4 at the beginning of the season by the bye week, would you have been happy, Paul?
Yeah,
I know
especially with the fact that
13-0.
Especially, well, no, I mean, you're right. Normally, we do a kind of review show in the bye week. And because it's been such a late bye week, we haven't had that chance to do that. But before the season, we always sit there, don't we, and go win, win, win. But if you look at the fact that we're 9-4, I've really enjoyed this season, even though I haven't done as much content due to life getting in the way, Gareth, and not being as plugged into the NFL. It's been refreshing this season to kind of sit down without that expectation of being, the top dog in the NFC, and kind of. I was glad when Mac came in, like you said, and steadied the ship. But I wasn't one of those people that thought a quarterback controversy was brewing, because as well as Mac Jones was steady, I think Purdy's come back in and shown what he can do. He's head and shoulders above, in my opinion, and the fact that he can control the offense. And you've mentioned the defensive side of the ball. I love a good stat on this show. So you look at the sacks that we've had this season, Gareth. We're ranked 32nd in the NFL with 16. We're ranked 30th in the NFL with our pass rush win rate, easy for me to say, 29%. We're 30th in the league for overall pressures at 111. We're 30th in the league for passes defended. Yet, despite that, we're the 8th best in points allowed. And
That's mad.
And we've held opponents to 24 points or less in 9 of the 13 games. And we talk quite a lot on this podcast about the eye test, trust in the process. And sometimes it might not show up on the stat sheet, but I think the job that Robert Saleh has done, he's come in, he's handpicked those rookies. Yes, he hasn't had the chance to work with Fred and Bosa, which I believe was a big thing for him coming back, Gareth, to work with those guys.
Of course, it would be for anyone.
We've always said on the show, we don't need the 49ers to be the best defense in the league. What we need is a top 10 defense mixed in with this offense. And I think why I say it's one of my favorite seasons so far, just the grit and the determination. And I'm not just talking the team, I'm talking the 49er faithful UK, because as you said, there's been a lot of emotional roller coasters. And yes, Michael, I thought it was quite crazy when I saw those stats on Twitter, but it just goes to show this kind of, I think Saleh has evolved as a coach, and he's come back in, Gareth, and he's took what he did when he was with us previously, and he's elevated that. And I'm quite excited to see now we're at the business end of the season. And I think the fact that we faced a bit of adversity early on, it might stand us in good stead. Do you agree with that? Or do you think I'm just being too positive as always?
No, I think you're right, but I think that's something that runs in the DNA of this team, and it's that culture that Shanahan was able to establish, and players, coaches, obviously like Salah, have supported that, and that's kind of stuck with the team. This has always been a resilient team. It's been a team that's always fought through these injuries and next man up, and hasn't felt, I think, seasons really getting away from them. I think even in a couple of the bad seasons we've had, we've been able to be in a position to fight all the way through to the end of the season. And I think it's that kind of mentality just sticks, and that's what we do here. There's no choice, and it's come through to a group of rookie and second year players, players who've arrived from other teams, and they've adopted that. And I think the particularly on, well, both sides, but I suppose particularly defensive side, it has been impressive how these guys have just knuckled down and worked through it. And I mean, that, do you remember right at the beginning of the season when um uh, name escapes me now, slot corner, our slot corner, Lee's boy.
Oh, you name names. I'll see
Yeah,
Demo's your boy.
he got picked on early in the season, and then that
Jaya
soon.
Brown.
No, new guy. Come on, brain. Ah,
Well, we're asking the chat at home.
someone will put it there. He's 20, isn't he? He's a rookie. Our rookie,
Oh,
nickel.
Upton Stout.
Upton Stout. There we go.
There you go. You just had to
Yep.
say the number. For those
Yeah,
people
yeah.
listening, that's what we were doing this week. But I beat everybody in the chat, Gareth.
We are so slick. We really are. Do you remember? Yeah, he was getting battered early on in the season, and that he's recovered from that. I think people of Tatum Bethune, D Winters, people struggled when Fred went out, and they've bounced back from that. They've recovered from that. I think that's what's been most impressive. I think is to be able to see the growth. Maybe it's going to turn out good. Maybe it's going to turn out that these guys on the defensive side getting thrown in at the deep end without the defensive leaders there are have had this baptism of fire, and they're going to come out of the other side at the end of this season more advanced in their growth than we thought they would be. And
Yeah,
special teams, worth
yeah.
mention.
Going to say Michael's mentioned it, and I think what we're quite excited for this team, Gareth, is all three phases: special teams, defense, offense. Before we give special teams the love, I was going to say there's been a lot of concern amongst the fan base about the usage of Christian McCaffrey, and I heard John Chapman say earlier that we could have the number one seed in the bag. There could still be a minute and a half left to go in week 18 against Seattle. The game is over, and Kyle's still going to run CMC. And I know that we laugh about that, but when you look at his touches, obviously he leads the league in touches at 322. He's on pace to become the first ever NFL player with 2 seasons of 1,000 rushing yards and 1,000 passing yards. But when you look at his rushes, Gareth, he's only had 237, and he's only averaging 3.6 yards per carry. So whilst it's not a great stat for a running back, it's quite interesting how the offense has evolved to kind of, it's all going through Christian McCaffrey, but we're not a run heavy team. It's not like he's breaking for those big long runs like we saw against Seattle a few years ago. And then you mix that up, the fact that if, maybe we are getting a 3 and out, then we're punting the ball. The special teams aren't getting ripped apart. And I think Sky Moore has had quite a good
He's had a great season.
impact this year.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that the fan base watching, realizing that special teams. And so credit goes to Kyle when he brought Salah back and he brought the special teams coordinator in, he let them clean house. And Lee has been very vocal on this podcast, Gareth, about Kyle stepping up as a head coach. And I think you've got to give Kyle the credit that he has said to those guys, in my opinion, right? You want to run it the way you want to run it. Tabor Pepper was released, Jake Moody's gone, and they've been allowed to bring their players in and implement their style. I mean, I've been impressed with the punter. Didn't think we'd get to tonight's show, Gareth, when we were talking about number 7. That's the punter.
You've got number 7 shirt, I think, haven't you?
Yes, 7. Got Kaepernick behind me, so maybe I should rock that at the playoff watch party. Which, let's face it, it's going to be happening, Beatwell.
Yeah, good to see special teams being something positive, and I think you're right. This is the first time, I think, even when we've had good teams, the things we've done well have been fantastic. But there's always been that thing that really, like special teams, has always thought if we end up having a game decided on that, it's probably not going to go our favour. But I think we're pretty solid on all three phases, and I think offensively it would be great to see the run game going better, but it's effective enough. Passing game, I think, is good. I'd love to see Purcell involved a little bit more, spreading the ball around. And defensively, we might not be getting the pressure, and we might not be getting the rates, but I think we're able to, or we've started getting the plays, and I think that's. I talked about this a few weeks ago. We'll give up the yards so long as defense can make a play every now and then, because that's what wins your games. Your defense making a play, a fumble, a fourth down stop, something like that. And we've started getting a little bit of knack for that. And that's, I think, a stat that doesn't necessarily appear on your list of pressures and what have you. The fact is, we've managed to start turning the ball over, and like we did against the Browns, stopping them on fourth down, making a couple of big plays. Those are the things that win your games. And the defense has just shown it's got a little bit of a knack for doing it. And sometimes you can do that with a defense that is that high risk, perhaps defense, which we haven't seen Salah favour. But maybe he's got to cut his cloth according to who's available.
Yeah, I've seen some reports come out today that obviously teams are going to be sniffing around Salah for the head coaching jobs, and I'm not overly worried. I think normally in this league, Gareth, you get two chances. Obviously, he picked badly with the Jets. I think he's going to have to think carefully about his next opportunity. So I'm not too worried. Obviously, dependent on how this season goes, I do feel he would like another shot at maybe he's running this defense fully healthy and
I
fully
hope so.
implementing his scheme, because he's brought some rookies in. And yeah, like I said, preparing for today's show, 9:25 game against the Titans. And one thing that I also wanted to kind of tip and nod to before we delve into the Titans game, the discipline's been better this year. There hasn't been as many penalties. There's players seem to have been a bit more focused. As you said, we've lost some big leaders in that dressing room. Yet players have came in, they've stepped up, and it's been exciting to watch. And yes, Mr. Positive, I'm always supporting the Niners, but it's always good when you see the talking heads this week, Gareth. Not one person has called for a Titans victory. So I'm hoping that is reflected amongst the UK faithful, and there's no dirty points this week. But we'll get into all that later, buddy.
Yeah, that would be very foolhardy, I think. But yeah, I can't even think of the Titans perhaps as a banana skin. Fair enough, they are off the back of their 1-game win streak, but it was of course against the Browns. And I think they still shit points. They still made mistakes. They still look fairly poor, just slightly less terrible than the Cleveland Browns. Not much to write home about there. But this is a game. I think if we're serious about making a push all the way to the Super Bowl, this is the sort of team we shouldn't overthink, and we should have them put to bed by the third quarter, because the Titans are in that handful of the poorest teams in the NFL, and we should be putting them away fairly easily without too much breaking too much of a sweat.
Yeah, I mean, we're at home. Shanahan has a 5-1 record in the last 6 years, the first game after the bye. And when Shanahan has that extra time to game plan, like you said, and everyone's well rested. I mean, we don't have the full injury report yet. When I checked this afternoon, Bethune, defensive end Samo, I can't get his surname right just yet, was sidelined by injury ankles. I think Eddie Piñeiro's back.
He is.
Kyle Juszczyk, limited participant. And I think Gross Matos is going to have his practice window opened possibly today. So we're getting healthy at the right time. And like you said, when I was preparing for the Titans, and I know we're going to look at the offense in a minute, what's your thoughts on Cam Ward before we go deeper into the Titans offense? Because he's a number one pick.
He was a number one pick, and that's all I know about him. The Titans aren't a team on my radar, and obviously not when they're in the midst of a fairly terrible season. I've not really paid any attention to the Titans whatsoever. So there we go. That was my preparation.
So I'll
It
put
wasn't much of one.
the offense on the screen. So this is why we've gone live tonight, chat. So we do want you to help us out because I mean, Cam Ward, like you've just said there, they're coming off the second win of the season. He does have limited resources at receiver, and as any rookie, Gareth,
There's not a lot there, is there?
no, he's been inconsistent. But that said, he has survived a schedule in which he's faced 6 of the top 10 defenses in the league. He has saw his coach get fired. For those who love a good stat, he's completed 59% of his passes. He's had 2,468 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions in his 13 starts. And Shanahan was quite glowing in the press conference I saw. He said that you can see why he was the first pick in the draft. He throws like a top quarterback and he can make every throw on the field. So, you know, I don't think Kyle's taken him too lightly, nor will Salah. But other than Cam Ward, I think Tony Pollard was the standout for me, Gareth, when I was preparing.
There's not really much there in terms of the offensive skill positions. Is there? He hasn't had a lot to play with, and when you've just reeled off the Cam Ward stats there, I mean that's not bad for a first year quarterback. Particularly the sort of 59%. Sometimes you see guys who've come into the league and become good quarterbacks, and they've struggled more than that with probably more support around them. I think there's some experience, there's some talent along that offensive line, but there's not a lot. And as you've said, in terms of 2 rookies on the wide receivers there, and the other being Van Jefferson, I don't know. There's nothing that is going to keep any cornerbacks or safeties awake at night. But any given Sunday, any given play, it could be the chance for somebody to make a bit of a name for themselves. But I've got to say, I think that we should be able to contain this sort of offense. I mean, we should.
Yeah, they tend to play a lot of, obviously, like you said there, the 11 personnel. I don't think Tony Pollard is used as much. I think for Titans fans listening in, they would agree that the offense should be run through Tony Pollard, maybe similar to what Shanahan does with his running backs. They struggle to score. So they normally average about 21 points a game. And as I said at the start, the Niners tend not to let more than 24 points. So that bodes well. The offensive line, given that you said there's some, decent players on there. They've struggled with the pass protection, but sometimes that goes when you get a quarterback out of college. Sometimes the quarterback gets a little bit jittery, tries to use the legs a little bit more rather than
and holds onto the ball. Doesn't have the rhythm, doesn't have the pace of the game yet. So and that's it. It's half a second, and that's the difference between getting the ball out quickly and not.
Yeah, and like we said, they've got 2 rookie wide receivers. So that always adds up. Like you said, Gareth, holding the ball on for half a second more in the NFL. And I think as well, the pass coverage, he's often struggled to, dissect the defense. And I said his interception's not too bad. 7 in 13 starts. I mean, few people, as Lee keeps saying, quarterbacks throw interceptions in this league. Just whenever Brock Purdy throws them, Gareth, the world is going to end.
So anyway, a slight detour then. I did enjoy Jalen Hurts' comedy moments in the week with the interception fumble on the same play. That's quite impressive.
Yeah, for those people doing fantasy football, I don't think they quite enjoy
it.
Well,
serves them right for picking Jalen Hurts. That's all I can say. Not that I've got anything particularly against him, other than more the team he plays for. But there we are.
So, as I said, for me, when I was preparing, I was trying to do like one word for each. I think for me, the offense is inconsistent, and I'm not overly worried. Famous last words, as Nadji would say, and we're not big in any particular player from the Titans. But if you've got anything that you want to add in the chat, because it is a live show, please drop them in the comments now.
Yeah, if you've heard of any of these players, that would be useful. Well, Tony Pollard, I've heard of. That's about it. Kevin Ziegler, right guard. I must admit, none of the others are names that.
Well,
yeah.
the right tackle was high on most people's draft boards, I believe. I recognise that name. Obviously Van Jefferson,
Yeah,
number
first round
11.
pick this year.
And then number 85, old Chig Okawano. I think I probably butchered that, but
Okonkwo.
I know that was a name Lee would ask me to pronounce. So,
That's
but
a good thing I didn't.
hi. So moving on swiftly, we do have the
Seamlessly.
defensive side of the ball. What do you know about the Titans defense in Gareth? Putting
Well,
you on the spot.
let's have a look at some of these names. Well, I think there's a little bit more recognition here. Arden Key is a name we should
I was about to say, yeah.
all remember. Let's see. Go else through it. Devondre Sweat, Sebastian Joseph Day. He played for us as well recently, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Sweat's one
Yeah.
of the ones, the nose tackle that I'm keeping an eye out for. I think he's had a good season, even though it hasn't shown up. And as you said, Arden Key and Day, I believe, what did we trade for him from the Rams? And he played out like back end of his contract. And then it's interesting when they move around and, you know, once they leave the Niners, Gareth, they're dead to us. But you've just got to be careful of these players coming back.
So because I've obviously missed this, but I thought Aziz Al-Shire was still on the Titans. But there we go. I'm clearly not got my finger on any sort of pulse on that one.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that. I mean, when I was looking at this one, they've got the potential to get the pressure on the run game if they do load the box, which could disrupt our tempo. But I don't think that's as much to worry about this year. I've just said at the start there, you know, CMC is averaging 3.4 yards per carry. And as Richard has put there, he would like to see Robinson used more. I'd like to see this game where Robinson's used as the workhorse back, you know, on your first and second down or, you know, third and short. And then maybe I would like to kind of see Brock Purdy with the ball in his hands a little bit more in this game and, you know, take the pressure off the run game, if that makes sense.
Well, I think there's two names at the bottom of the list there. At cornerback, both rookies, so both potentially areas that could be exploited by a decent passing attack. I expect us to try and get some points on the Titans early, so that we can potentially look at not only resting players, but obviously giving us some other players a bit of a run. We haven't been able to do that this season. So I would love to see us treat the Titans with the respect that they deserve, but also back ourselves that we should be able to just put these guys away early. And this is a nice, gentle introduction from the bye week. Get the bodies warmed up again for bigger tests to come in the following 3 weeks.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, their pass defense is among the weaker in the league. And I think they're vulnerable to the deep ball, which, as we said, Brock Purdy seems to be kind of sharpening that. And I would like to hope that this is a big Kittle game this week, Gareth. And obviously that'll be reflected in our, because obviously this week's prediction league, I was intrigued by this week's special bonus. Do you know what? You have to pick the extra points, which we won't give away yet. But I was trying to think what else do I have about the...
I haven't got a number for that, actually. Yeah.
So, I mean, like you said, it's not the banana skin, but given we're at the business end of the season in the NFL, it's a team that I wouldn't take too lightly. They've got nothing to lose into this game. Sometimes they can be the more dangerous opponent in the NFL, isn't that right?
Well, particularly it's if you struggle badly, you know, early interception or something like a big special teams play, or just you know, a blown coverage or something, and we let them score early, and then for whatever reason stutter, before you know it, you're into the third quarter and you're chasing the game. So I can't see that happening on this particular situation. I mean, if it did, it's obviously it's a roller coaster season. But this is a game we've got to win. We've got 4 left. I think I said last time, you know, as long as we win 2, we're in the playoffs.
Yeah. So
and this should be the gimme out of those 4.
Yeah. So Richard's joined there and put Simmons as the key man on defense. And as I was And he's also put that Alsha here. Is it the Texans? I wasn't sure myself on
There
that.
we go. Texans, of course it is.
So because
Not
I
Titans.
wasn't sure whether we'd have that much to talk about the Titans, I did have some stats to back up our confidence. So their total offense ranks dead last in 32nd at the moment. The dead last in total yards per game. The points scored per game, the 31st. Yards per game, 32nd. Passing attack, yards per game, 31st. And they're also quite low down in third down conversions and efficiency. And quite simply, the offense isn't something that should be causing Salah and his defense any problems. Famous last words, Gareth, but do those stats make you feel a bit more confident?
They do. I mean, they are what I expected, really from the Titans. So it's been a tough old season for them. But yeah, like you say, they can go and go on the road and go and play and just go and play their game. And see if the Sunday football gods are smiling on them, but I don't think so. Even then, I think if they did score early, it might give us the kind of jolt we need. But I don't think we have that kind of level of complacency. I think we always respect the opponents, and we always know we're going to get a tough game from anyone. So the Titans, it's going to be still a hard work. It's still going to be a shift, and we still got to execute on both sides, all three phases. So, and because of I did have a look up. We lost the last time we faced the Titans, which was in December the 23rd, 2021. Can't say this is a game I remember. We lost 20-17 to a walk-off field goal. After touchdowns from Jeff Wilson and Brandon Ayuk.
So to coin the to get that pun out the way, you didn't remember the Titans, famous movie reference. So I remember that game because I said my friend Ryan is a Titans fan, and I believe it was a late game. But also to back up what we were saying about the defense, again, they're roughly sitting at bottom third for yards allowed per game. They're actually second bottom, Gareth, for points allowed. So compared to the offense, very similar. But as Richard's already said, the biggest strength is Jeffrey Simmons. He can create the pressure. But I'm not worried about Purdy facing him. I think Purdy's evolved this season, and obviously the issues with the toe. I think he's either going to get the ball out quickly, and I think Shanahan's going to scheme away. We were all worried about Myles Garrett in the Cleveland Browns, and I think Purdy showed his composure, and he's prepared for these kind of big guys coming after him, isn't he, Gareth?
He is, and the offensive line, I think, particularly since Brock's been back, has stabilized into a reasonable unit. I think it's easy to watch the games and think the O-line is terrible. Go and watch anyone else's games, and if you want to look at it that way, almost every O-line looks terrible, because I think pass rushes are so good. So I think we can be a little bit unreasonable, I think, on the offensive line in terms of what we expect. But I think they have played well in the last few games, and it's odd that we've had struggles in the run game, because that tended to have been the strength of our offensive line, where we've kind of accepted the pass protection is going to be lacking because the run game is so good. And I think what's been a surprise this year is the run game the execution hasn't quite been there, but I think we've been reasonably good on the pass protection. And particularly given we've obviously had injuries on that line, and it looks like I think we've lost Ben Barch again, haven't we, for the rest of the season. So he was an upgrade, I think, over Spencer Burford. So
yeah, and what I do love about this community, and when you do stuff like what we four chaps get to do every week and talk football, and you
there's
go
four of
away.
us.
Well, normally, give the two chaps the shout out. So it has been a while since the awesome foursome, but when you you start watching the game tape and you go and listen to the talking heads and you start to understand football and you start to see, like you've just said there, the offensive line, and you go away like last week and you look around the league, you look at the much vaunted Chiefs the next dynasty that was supposed to come along. You see the struggles that they're having, and then you go around, you see what the Eagles are struggling, and you think, Jesus, and it's our offensive line isn't as bad as some people may seem, but equally we're greedy, and I would like to see them get better. But again, Kyle doesn't value the
But we
picks. He doesn't value the position
and
to
we've
spend the
been
money, does he?
we've been and we have been good enough, even though I've argued about it time and time again. His logic is, look, we've been making these NFC Championship games with these guys. I would just love to see Brock Purdy behind the offensive line that Jalen Hurts has had for the last couple of
Yeah.
years. I would just love to see how that offense looks. Is it going to be a 50 burger every game? Then fine, you don't need to invest any money in the defense. Then don't worry with that. Which, yeah, I'm sure someone will shoot me down for that now, because defense wins championships, and I fully agree with that. But it is. You just mentioned a few other teams. It's been a funny season. No one looks that good. I mean, the Rams have been the most consistent, but yeah, the Eagles are having their wobble. The Bucks and the Panthers are now in a shootout. I'd take either of them. Lions look like they're probably not going to make it. I'd happily face the Bears. If we don't get the 1 seed, there's pretty much, assuming the 1 seed is either the Rams or the Seahawks, if it can be. I'd take any of those other likely
Yeah.
division winners. Green Bay might be a bit dangerous, but again, I'm not as convinced on Jordan Love and Green Bay as some other guys seem to be. So
They've been inconsistent, Green Bay. I mean, I think if the season finished right now, we'd be going into Philadelphia, and I'm not worried about that. We've shown we can do that. As you said there, the Panthers, it's been kind of nice to see them bounce back, but again, we could be facing the Bucks or the Panthers. And like you said, I think the
take
NFC,
either of those.
a lot of people were concerned a few years ago that the AFC were running away with it. But I think the NFC, maybe you could argue it's got stronger because there's more teams at the moment. Like you said, the Lions, most people's favourite second team, for those people that do that kind of thing, they are struggling at the moment. Our good friend of the show, Andy Norton, keeps texting me saying, why is it when the Lions are good, the other teams are good as well in our division? And look at us, NFC West. There's 3 teams sat with 9 wins, and we're 3rd in division at the moment. I shouldn't get too carried away, but I am looking forward to that Seattle game. We all said at the start of the season, Gareth, that would either be an absolute blockbuster of a game or it would mean nothing. And the way it's looking at the moment, it's going to be kind of everything riding on that game. And I agree with what Richard said there. I think given the injuries we've had, given where we've come from, there's a lot of people, Gareth, think if we just make the playoffs and we don't we don't make the NFC Championship game or we don't make the Super Bowl, but we just make the playoffs, that isn't seen as a success. But I'd be quite happy if we make the playoffs. What about you?
I would, but having said that, if we were facing, even going on the road to face one of those other divisional winners, say the Eagles, the Bucks, or the Bears, I'd be disappointed if we didn't beat one of those 3 teams. I think it might be a struggle to face a fully fit Rams team, but on the other hand, if somebody can undo the Rams, it's Shanahan. I wouldn't necessarily want to face a full strength Seahawks team either, but if there's somebody who knows what Sam Darnold's weaknesses are, it's going to be Shanahan. So we do have those little cards against our divisional friends that might balance out games you'd think we otherwise couldn't compete in. There's really nobody in the NFC. There's nobody in the AFC that I'd actually be really not confident against. I mean, what's happened to the Ravens is mad. The Bills just inexplicably always look like they can be beaten. They always look like they can lose a game. Denver, I think it's it's they've got a little bit that kind of unstoppable force about them of how do you keep winning with your offense being this bad? You keep scoring 10 points and winning games, but there's almost an inevitability about that. But I think that'll probably catch up with them in the playoffs. So who knows? Who knows? This is wide open. But we are the sort of team, I think, and Shanahan has built the kind of team that can just take advantage of those things and have that we're not going to be beaten. We've got nothing to lose, and we've got a home Super Bowl to look
I
forward to.
know. So our good friend Crystal, who had a bit of fun on Twitter, she'd shared a tweet tongue in cheek because the Super Bowl logo has the Golden Gate Bridge in it, and she was like, "If you ever need proof that the Niners win the Super Bowl, it's in the logo." And a few people jumped on that, saying, it's on the logo because it's in San Francisco. And she was just having some fun. And circling back to what you said about the offensive line, obviously being on a bye week this week, and obviously the talk of the Hall of Fame class. And I've seen a lot of footage shared of Joe Staley in the Saints game on that run where Alex Smith, so Staley's out.
Yeah.
And I'd love to have someone like that on the offensive line. Like you were saying, seeing Brock behind that kind of play would be awesome. But you talk to the NFL fans in the UK, and we've had it this year, Gareth. Our work with the Niners, and they always ask what does success look like and how is the game grown in the UK. I think a good barometer of that is you're having conversations with people at work, and as you've just said there, some casual fans are saying, "Who's got the Super Bowl? Who's the favourite?" And as you said, at the moment, there isn't a standout team, and I think that's why we all fall in love with this sport. And you don't, like you said, you're going to stay up and watch the Broncos win 10-7. You're going to watch the Niners Titans. It could be an absolute blowout. I mean, Lee and Najee have got some interesting score predictions, haven't they, Gareth? Which we're going to get onto in a
50
moment.
burgers, 50 burgers. Well, should we go on to that now? We have been going 40 minutes, so we probably should start getting towards the business end of the show.
So we don't have the fancy graphic because I've been at work in the office all day, and I don't want to press the buttons to get it wrong. But as we've just alluded to, at this time of recording, Gareth, I believe Lee and Najee haven't sent a message. So what are the rules?
No, Lee has sent a message.
Ooh.
And Najee should be home now, so he should have. Well, Najee's not seen the message, but there we are.
So,
I should mention before we start, the Niners are 7.5 point favourites, and the over under is 45.5.
So
the extra point for this week is red zone visits.
Yeah, I must admit, when I saw Kev drop that earlier, Gareth, I was thinking that's interesting, that one, because obviously it'll reflect in your score prediction as well. Obviously, if you're going to say the Niners are going to the red zone 20 times, you're going for a blowout. But
we should, in case anyone is new to the game and in any doubt, what we mean by red zone visits is an offensive possession within our opponent's 20-yard line. So that's the red zone you're close to scoring. So the amount of times we have one of those possessions. So bizarrely, of course, if you score a 21-yard passing touchdown, you haven't actually been in the red zone.
Yeah, that's
likewise. Defensive touchdowns, special teams touchdowns don't.
So I mean, weirdly, before you give your score predictions, I was having a look at our red zone efficiency, and we're 9th in the NFL.
We're not bad this year. We're not bad.
We're not bad, yeah. So, and the Titans' red zone defense, they allow touchdowns on about 60% of red zone trips. So, I mean, I'm trying not to overthink this bonus point so far, and the reason that I'm kind of sharing this now for people, if you haven't had time to think about it, it is something worth thinking about, isn't it, when you put your score prediction with the bonus point, because these two go quite hand in hand for me this week. And as Michael's put there, the last time he checked, we were 12-point favourites for this game. But the over-under seems quite low to me, Gareth. I don't know about you, given that it's like a Levi game, it's not a bad weather game, and I know the Titans aren't great, but it doesn't strike me as a low-scoring game.
No, but I think the Titans are potentially considered a low-scoring team. So if you think of 45, that's 30 to 15.
I
So
suppose on that basis, yeah, I've totally contradicted myself because I know what my score prediction is. So thanks, for that,
it's,
Gareth.
and it's about 45.5, is it? There we go. There we go. There we are. Anyway, then shall I go first then?
You do need to go first
Yeah.
because for those people who may be new to this, the person who was top of the leaderboard goes first. So last time I checked, Gareth, that was you.
That was me. I'm bullish about this one. I think I'm going to go for a 49ers win. And we are going to win 34-16.
I like that.
We'll have that. And in terms of red zone visits, let's see what we have there. That's 4 TDs and 2 field goals, isn't it? So that's I reckon we'll have five red zone visits. I think one of those will be out. One of those TDs will be out the red zone. So, or maybe a field goal to close the first half, and it's just outside the red zone.
Yeah, to be honest, let's say bold prediction. I think we're going to see a lot of guesses between 4 to 7 trips to the red zone. I think that's going to be. So I'll be honest. 5 was the number that I had. Now I need to decide whether it's stick or twist because obviously you're top of the leaderboard at the moment. But I know there's other people.
Is Lee's next? Would you like to hear Lee's? Because I noticed you haven't seen it. Well, Lee is almost like looking at my notes, so I'm glad I've got in first. But Lee has also gone for a Niners win, a 35-13 Niners win. So very, very similar to me with 7 red zone visits.
And then Nadji would be because I'm bottom. So Nadji would need to go next. And I'm guessing he hasn't put a message in the chat yet.
50 to zip Titans win for Nadji.
And how many red zone trips?
None.
Right. So Nadji does have a little bit of wiggle room. He does need to get his score in at some point.
He has just seen the message.
Ooh, so by the time, so I'll do mine now to give Nadji time to type in. So Lee will be delighted to know that I'm going for a 49ers win, 31-13, because that score seems to do well for me, Gareth, when I use it. And I'm going to predict that we go to the red zone 6 times, because I did have 5 on my sheet, but because you've gone for 5, I'm going to throw 6 in there just to kind of go one better than you. Mix it up. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we might have to write that down and make sure it's added to the actual chart from Kev and all his hard work with his spreadsheets.
So what I'll do for context, because you're there now, I will write it in our chat so I don't forget. So I went 31-13, 6 trips. So then obviously for those people listening, we have a group chat. So if I don't do it now, Gareth, I will forget. But are we doing any boldies?
I think we should do some boldies if indeed you have any.
I do have a couple, but you go first because you're the leader.
Go on then. I think Brock's going to have a good day. I think Brock's going to have 3 TDs and around 300 yards. 2 of those TDs and 100 of those yards are going to go to Mr. George Kittle. And I think CMC is also going to get 2 TDs, 1 of each. And another 100 yards on the ground.
Nice. Well, seems you've gone offensive.
Totally.
Kittle will have a big game. I agree with you there. I'll go on the defensive side, and I think that our defensive front gets 4 sacks.
Oh, that is bold.
The O-line has been a bit of a sieve, and I do believe we see another fumble recovery from this 49ers defense. And I don't believe the Titans will score a touchdown until the 4th quarter. So I think they'll get a garbage time TD.
Garbage time TD.
I thought it would be bold, Gareth, trying to mix it up a little bit. Now, you mentioned Purdy. So what you think he's going to get 100+ passer rating? Did you say
I would imagine it's probably going to be 120-ish. I would think 3 TDs, 300 yards.
So I was going to say
no picks, obviously.
Yeah, no interceptions. So I think the Brock Purdy for me is going to post 100% passer rating in the red zone because, as I said, we've been very efficient in converting those red zone trips. And I also would love to see him do another dance. I'm not quite sure what that dance was against the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah,
all the cool kids were doing that. Gowland wasn't doing that in Sheffield, but Connor Ryan was definitely tempted to. I know that much. But what did you make of Purdy's moves?
I've never ever heard of a Dougie before that was done by Brock Purdy. So no, I have no idea. I think this is maybe one of those examples of the vast cultural divide between the US and the UK.
So Dave Betteridge has jumped in. I was thinking, should I stay away from special teams? But because it's a community-based podcast, Dave Betteridge has gone kick return touchdown. I would love to see it, Gareth.
Yeah.
Sky Miller's been close.
He's earned it. He's definitely earned it. And yeah, he's one guy I would like to see us sign. It's odd in, we traded for him, what, 6th round pick or whatever it was, I think in late August. And it almost struck at the time, have we really not thought about who's going to be returning these kicks? It seemed to be a bit of a last minute desperation move, but it's turned into a stroke of genius. So,
well, it's no coincidence that since Sky Moore has left, the sky has fallen in on the Chiefs. There's another pun that Brett Sinclair would like. Before we finish off, people, for those people listening, I would have a little bit of fun. And I wanted, because it's a live show, I wanted the chat to predict, Gareth, whether our first touchdown was going to be a run, pass, or defensive touchdown, because we could get a pick six to start with. So I would like the chat to drop that in. And if you are listening to the pod back, do drop us a DM or tag us on social media. So what do you reckon, Gareth? Putting you on the spot,
Kittle.
do you reckon?
It's
It's going to be Kittle?
It's that opening possession, methodical move down the field. Purdy's going to hit Kittle from about like 15 yards out or something like that. Kittle's going to stiff arm somebody into next week and rumble over.
So I don't think we've got any announcements this week, Gareth. I know we're a little bit rusty after the bye week, and I would just like to echo what Lee has said previously. For those people that came down to Sheffield, it was a great watch party. We've had a lot of requests, Gareth, from faithful coming across the pond into London for Christmas. So I do have some kind of venues that have been signposted, but given that game's at 1:20 a.m., don't think there's going to be much in the way of
the
a watch
Colts,
party in London. Yeah, there's Colts and the Bears. I've had people reach out about both. And obviously the Colts, we're going to talk about that next week with a quarterback that isn't so much younger than me or you, which is going to be interesting next week.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't. Who had that on their bingo card for this year? Philip Rivers coming back from 4 years. I hope he's all right. It's that could end up on a cart. I think just because you've got out of having your body battered for 4 years to suddenly come out and take one of these hits from a defensive lineman. I hope he's okay. It's a bit of fun, isn't it? I'm not sure I'm going to be too concerned about us having to face the Colts, which a few weeks ago was looking like a sticky game. Now it's the Colts are fading. I think off the back of their quarterback injuries. Who would have said that as well? Of fading without your Messiah, Daniel Jones. So. But yeah, that's a bit of fun, isn't it? Philip Rivers back.
It is. I mean, we always say it. The NFL season goes far too quickly. I know we haven't had as much content out this year, Gareth. Lee's got a new job. I've had a new job. I've had some upheaval at home, but I still love that we can get together. We can talk all things Niners, and people tune in, people listen, and the Prediction League has definitely added a new element. Before we finish off, we've got a couple of answers to our questions. So David has gone for a quarterback sneak.
Nice.
Touchdown.
Yeah.
Michael is on the same page as you.
Kittle. Yeah. I did predict a Brock Purdy rushing touchdown when he scored one. Was it the one against
the Browns?
Against the Browns, of course, yeah.
So I was absolutely delighted because I love a play action play. And the fact that he pulled that off so well, the fake handoff, and then, as you said, he ran it in the end zone. Have you seen Lee's favourite player jumping on the ball after that play's finished because he thought Brock had been tackled and it was going to be a So good old Puny's jumping on the ball while they're all celebrating. Yeah. So I did enjoy seeing that.
That's good coaching. If you stand there and do nothing and it's live, you're going to look bad. if you jump on it while your mates are celebrating, what's the worst that's going to happen? So yeah, good discipline. Good discipline. Like to see it.
As you said, Gareth, we were unprepared, just the two of us, yet we've managed to ramble on for 55 minutes.
I was hoping Nadji has just come online, but he's mulling over his score prediction. I was hoping we might be able to add it in then, but I think we're just gonna have to let him go.
Yeah, he's waiting to drop it in the Discord, isn't
Yeah,
he? So for those people listening
he's a
in,
busy boy as well.
obviously it's a 9:25 p.m. kickoff this Sunday. It's not blacked out on Sky, so obviously that is good news for those people who have Game Pass. If you haven't joined our Discord, do head over there. The game day thread is great fun. I'm looking forward to joining this one, Gareth. I've had a blast as always. Is there any final thoughts, Gareth, before I finish off and let these good people get on with their Thursday evening?
No, I think it's the run-in starts here. Yeah, well, let's not look too far ahead, but yeah, I think we've covered it. We have got as much of a chance to make it as anyone else this season, and I genuinely believe that. And when it all goes wrong, it's all Lee's fault. So long as that's known, then
well, I'm rooting for you to win the prediction league, but obviously the
careful.
49er Faithful UK, we are a community group. We would appreciate if you could drop us a like, a subscribe, tell all your fellow 49ers fans.
Mhm.
As I said to Gareth off there, had a weird moment in Darlington today, spotted a chap with a Niners cap on, had the 49er Faithful UK business card ready, strolled over Gareth. No, Niners fan, buddy? Not at all.
He just bought it
Mrs.
from
had bought him
TK
the
Maxx,
cap.
didn't
He
he?
had
Yeah.
no idea what I was on about, so I disappeared off. But I was looking forward to chatting all things 49ers. I am looking forward to discussing the game on possibly Monday or Tuesday next week. Our schedule's
yeah,
a
yeah.
bit all over the place, but with Mr. Gowland over in Copenhagen working and not checking out the Christmas markets, Gareth, hopefully the four of us will be able to get together next week and talk.
That would be great. That would be great to get the four of us. And then obviously there is the Christmas week, isn't there? So we may have to juggle what days we're going to be doing stuff on that time. But there we go. At least it's not a Christmas Day game.
It's not a Christmas Day game, no. So thank you to everyone in the chat who joined us tonight. We do appreciate everybody with our schedule changing.
We do.
We moving
definitely
around.
do.
I am feeling pretty confident, Gareth. Get the pun in. The Niners are winning this one. We'll be back for Victory Monday. And all that is left for me to say is trust the process and go Niners.
Bang, bang, Niner gang.
We love the San Francisco 49ers deep in our heart. Like Joe Montana in the corner, deep Clark, Garrison Hurst.